Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Week 8 WTF podcast, our weekly series about our what the heck is going on, or what the front door, shut the front door is going on in the NFL and around the league, not just with Steel City and with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we try to include everyone in the NFL and different games that we've seen. And just so to make sure we try to cover as much as we can. And we also followed up with an article, and that has a little bit more tidbits in there, especially after we kind of include Monday Night Football and some of the different things there. We've had a lot to cover. We had a lot going on in the Steelers game, as everybody knows. And just really trying to kind of put it all together and say, did that really happen? Are we really discussing this now? You know, what's really going on out there when it comes to some of the craziness in the NFL? And it never, it's different week to week. It just never ceases to amaze me what we find and some of the different things that happen. So let's start first of all with Thursday Night Football last Thursday. Ravens-Dolphins. You know, everybody was really flying high on the Dolphins. You know, Jay Cutler gets hurt in the previous game, and so Matt Moore comes in and saves the day with a come-from-behind win. And then they face the Ravens at home. And you just sit there and think, okay, well, you know, the Ravens have not been very good. I'm not a Flacco fan, but he's pretty much lost a lot of his weapons. Everybody's out. They have more people on, injury reserve than I think any other team. And so, but they're kind of tooling along. The Dolphins could not have been playing worse. Well, around the second quarter, just towards the end of it, I think there was about 3 minutes left, and the Ravens were up about 13-0, so they were shutting out the Dolphins. They ended up doing that. But Kiko Alonso, defender on the Dolphins, well, let me back up. So Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco, he's trying to get a first down. He sees the marker. He's running for it. Once you become a runner as a quarterback, unless you give yourself up, with at least 3 seconds where the defender coming at you can either jump over you or back off, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hurt. Well, sure enough, he's heading, towards that first down marker. He realizes he isn't going to get there. You've got Kiko Alonso coming full speed at him on that. And then late, Joe basically gives himself up. And Kiko hits him square on. Now, because of how Joe slid, he actually got hit in the head. His head snapped back. And he also, we've come to find out, he had his ear sliced. And according to Coach Harbaugh, he had to have stitches in his ear without anesthesia. I think he was trying to make a point there. Tough guy thing. But he ended up being in, concussion protocol. You knew right away. He was rocked. I mean, he got hit. He got slammed. And, I don't want to say feel bad for defenders, but feel for their position. You're sitting there going, oh, WTF, what the heck was that? But then, of course, with the benefit of slow motion and replay and looking at it, you see that he didn't have time to stop. Was it a penalty? Yes. Will he get fined? Absolutely. But everybody's calling for his suspension. Even Coach Harbaugh went after him, basically saying, that was dirty. You shouldn't have done that. And he's like, he was a runner. He wasn't down yet. And, I have to kind of, be on the side of Kiko Alonso here. He was right. He wasn't down yet. And he made the decision after the defender basically was coming flying at him. So, I really think it's a tough position now to be on the defense because rules have changed. You can only hit from here to here. And, if you could actually see me on my podcast, you'd see me have this really tight window in the trunk of the person. And, it's really tough. And when, we saw something, I think it was actually in the Steelers game yesterday, there's a couple of different games this happens, and this does happen all the time, where a runner, and even a wide receiver, they dip their head as the defender's coming in to stop them with the ball. And because the runner dips their head, there's helmet-to-helmet contact, and all of a sudden it's the person who hits the defender's fault. So, that's one of my big WTFs is you just look at that and think, what was he supposed to do? Now, the sad thing is we do hope that, Joe's okay. I mean, rivalries aside and, we hate this team, we hate that team. nobody wants a person to get completely taken out of the game and, that competition gone. I don't care what anybody says. If you're only playing the easiest teams, then why play? You want to play teams where the competition level is high. I said last week I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't know him personally, but from what I have heard of him, I'll just say sources, on a personal level, he's not the greatest person in the world, but he is probably one of the top quarterbacks out there. So when you take him out of the equation, you just have a pedestrian team. Well, again, I don't know exactly, where everybody feels that Joe Flacco is. But he is a $100 million quarterback. So he is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And what they were saying today, which is Monday that I'm recording, is that they tweeted out, and the Ravens said that he's still in concussion protocol, that he's still having symptoms, and he got hit hard. This does not surprise me. I would think he's out still another game, another week, and hopefully he'll be all right. But that was definitely a WTF moment, for that game. And so we just hope that everything turns out okay. But just sticking with a couple of injuries and some things that happened, and this was an oh my gosh. WTF means, really, are you doing that? Or can we stop? But the oh my God moment with Zach Miller, a Saints tight end. I don't know if anybody saw it. It's pretty gruesome if you go see it. But his knee went one way and his leg, bottom half of his leg, went the other. And so he suffered a knee injury yesterday. They had to rush him to the hospital. And it was not just your typical knee injury. It severed an artery. They call it the popliteal artery, which is right below the knee. And that's not good. That actually, controls the blood supply flowing to below the knee, into the foot. And even though it was a successful surgery, let's be clear, he's not out of the woods. And so there's a couple, arguments to that. So we just want to make sure everybody knows, just to, that some of these injuries, you just have to really just take a minute and just think, oh my gosh. And I'm going to bring up something that, that happened in the Steeler game at the end, and then I'll come back to the whole game as a whole when it comes to some of these WTF moments. And this is the biggest one of the game. And even though it's at the end of my article I'm writing, I'm going to put it out there because this can injure people. This is just stupidity, in my opinion. And one of the things, Alshon Robinson, one of the defenders for Detroit. So at the very end, we're, obviously Steelers won 2015. It's at the very end. Yes, that's only one score game, but we've got 1:14 left. We had the first down. All we needed are 2 kneel downs, and we're in victory formation, which is as a courtesy to run the clock out. Everybody knows what that means. It means you basically kind of let the team do it. And this Robinson, defender, he basically comes bull rushing across. And then, like we did something wrong. I say we, meaning the Steelers, like they did something wrong. He, throws 2 punches at Ramon Foster's head. Well, Marquise Pouncey wasn't having any of that. He basically, has a closed fist, according to what the media guys were saying. I think it was Chris Collinsworth. He basically was saying that it was more of an open-handed pushback kind of smack, basically get off my quarterback. And you see Ben back up and run, kind of take the ball with him going, WTF are you doing? And so it's just, that's just wrong. That's just absolutely disrespectful. It's a courtesy. It's, it's just something not to do. I remember, I think it was Dan Quinn. Maybe it wasn't him, but it was a coach that was an interim coach in Miami a couple years ago, where he basically said, I don't care if they're taking a victory formation. We play right up to the end of that 60 minutes. And he did that a couple years ago. And everybody's like, dude, there's a certain protocol here, stop doing that. So that was unfortunate. That was really unfortunate that happened. But he got dejected for the punches. So definitely a WTF moment there. The other thing is, this is kind of interesting, kind of going back to other teams before we get back into the Steelers game. One of the things that I thought was really disappointing, and I'm like, WTF, what, we never have things go the way we want them to. And as a Steeler fan, for over 20 years, and just really, wanting us to get back to that, elusive Super Bowl, and, now sitting pretty at 6-2, and, the next one down in our division is 4-4, you kind of want a blowout. You want to get to the top. You want that bye. And to do that, we need other teams to, help out and beat certain teams. Well, when the Bengals and the Colts get together, you never really think that, the Colts, because right now they're dealing with a backup quarterback in Brissett. Andrew Luck is out for who knows how long. His shoulder is not getting better. Now he's going to be seeing more shoulder specialists to figure it out from surgery he had in January. But what's kind of interesting on this whole thing is that the Colts were winning. They were beating them all, right down to the end. And then, of course, there was a pick six, and Carlos Dunlap, who's kind of a pain in the butt, but he basically had a pick six of Brissett, and the Colts ended up pulling it out 24-23. And so, the Cincinnati did. So the Bengals pulled it out, and that was a bummer. So we were really hoping that we were even going to be, even higher up in our division, not having, anybody chase, but they're back there, they're lurking. And so that was a WTF moment for me for sure. Another one probably for most of you, that because there's only 2 games on at the time, I only want to talk about the Cowboys game. In my opinion, I don't think Ezekiel Elliott should be playing. He's got that whole looming suspension thing, and we'll leave that alone, and hopefully that'll get cleared up with the courts, and they'll figure out what they're supposed to do there, and we'll get back to business. But when you look at the Texas-Seattle game, you've got Russell Wilson, who I think, I don't want to say he's an underrated quarterback, but he definitely is somebody who doesn't get a lot of love. I don't know if it's where they're at, Seattle. But that guy is just such a hard worker. And if anybody can make a comeback happen, it's that quarterback. And between him and, what will probably be the rookie of the year, Deshaun Watson, basically they both threw 4 touchdowns. And what quarterback throws 4 touchdowns and can't get a win? But they both had an interception, and actually Watson had 3, and that was really the kind of the difference in the game. But talk about a back and forth offensive defensive game, and it was absolutely crazy as far as that game goes. So anyway, Seattle ended up pulling out the win, and all I was hearing on NFL radio today, which I thought was funny, is just how well Watson played. They just love this kid. The media thinks he is just, he's just doing a great job, which he is. And it's sad that kind of performance, definitely can't win you a game. But you just sit there and go, gosh, 4 touchdowns, WTF. But when you turn the ball over, that's definitely going to keep you out of that mix. So let's fast forward to some of the other things that are happening as far as a WTF weekend. And let's just get right into the Steelers game, because we have a lot of things that are happening. First of all, I think one thing that's really funny is, and just kind of playing off of that Bengals game, the rookie running back for the Bengals, Joe Mixon, he's had an issue with, anger issues and everything. So we were kind of thinking when he got drafted, oh, well, there's a team to go to where you've got Burfict, you've got, Adam Jones, you got players that you really hope he doesn't look up to when it comes to attitude anyway, and how you carry yourself. But what was interesting or funny to me, and this was totally a sensitive WTF moment for Le'Veon Bell. I'm thinking, dude, you're trying to be this rap star, you're trying to be this tough and, rough and tumble NFL player, and you're so sensitive. And apparently Joe Mixon had some words, it was sometime this week or before, saying that he was better than Le'Veon Bell, and Bell wasn't all that. And so then it was really funny, because then he apparently this week he wore an arm sleeve similar to Bell. He wore mismatched gloves similar to Bell. And Le'Veon tweets out something to the effect of, dude, why don't you just change your number 28 to 26 and call it even? So that was kind of funny to me. Just the sensitive, just people are so sensitive. And now we see, our players just getting in the mix on that. And so that's just a kind of an interesting thing. But sticking to the theme of social media, everyone knows that Martavis Bryant was benched this week. So I was actually surprised that was handed down. And I actually wish other teams would just handle it that way internally. It's like, look, you're going to whine about play time. You're going to talk about another player that way. Then you're going to delete those tweets. You definitely need to come and talk to us, see what you can do to get better, and then we'll have that conversation. But to make it public and then say you want to be traded, obviously Coach Tomlin is going to say, you know what, you're going to sit this out. What I think was the smart thing is that they brought him to Detroit, because you don't want him with, whatever emotional issues he might have to be alone, because that's when things start to be a problem for him. So he was still part of the team, still in the mix, still watching what was going on. And I don't know if he was too happy with watching what's going on. I'm sure that the first thing he saw was a drop pass by Eli Rogers. So Eli has been inactive a couple of games this season already. He had muffed a punt return, and that got him benched. And then he's gotten a little play time here and there to work his way back. And then he was basically put in there for the benched Martavis, and he dropped a for sure touchdown in the end zone in the first quarter on one of the first drives. So, and then we didn't hear from him again. We didn't see him. I think I saw him one more time, and then that was it. So, at that point, Martavis is like, told you, WTF guys. But then, you see a bunch of other things happen too, and then I'll get to a couple other things. But then Ben throws a pick, so then he gets he's picked off. And then in what was his only third fumble of his entire career, Le'Veon Bell, ends up with the fumble, which was just odd because that guy just doesn't fumble. He knows about ball protection. And if there's one thing that Coach Tomlin hates, it's fumbling. It's turnovers. He loses his mind with that. A few years back, I don't know how many of you have been following the Steelers for quite a while, but when we had several running backs on our team, Rashad Mendenhall, we had Isaac Redman, we just had a few, really just not the Bell style running back at all, who is like him, but we just had, just the real big backs back there. And we had one game, I think it was about 5 years ago, that it seemed like every running back was fumbling, everybody. And so he basically almost pretty much benched the entire running back sector. He just had, Coach Tomlin just had enough. And we did end up losing that game. But it was just interesting because Bell is nobody's harder on himself than Bell is when that happens. You can see the look on his face, his body language. And that was definitely a problem because you're looking at a swing there. We had definitely a 6-point swing with Eli because then they get up in, field goal position when they go back, and it was an interesting game. We had a touchdown that AB made, or he thought he made, and then they had kind of a ticky-tack offensive pass interference call, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And that was definitely a WTF moment. It's just like that. It just really wasn't. We couldn't even see it. There was not even a push off. I don't even know what they were thinking. So I've looked at it 3 times already. I've slowed it down play by play, and I don't see what they're thinking. So it was just kind of interesting when you see some of the refs do this, and you're like, what is it that you're seeing there? But again, the game is so fast sometimes, and I think there are times when the refs and I'm not trying to be flip here, but I think they just don't want to give it to that star player. I just feel that sometimes. So that's I know that's an interesting take, and it maybe sounds like sour grapes a little bit, but it's not. There are certain players out there who, are special, know what they're doing, and he's one of them. And I just think it was a bad call. But what was really tough through the whole game is just how far we kept going back and forth and back and forth. I mean, we were, 7-6, so one score game, and then we were 10-12, and now we're not a 1-point game, and then we were 13-12, and so it was just these little tacks on of tiny little, it was stressful. This was a heart attack game. They were saying that when I say they on NBC right after the game, they reported that the Lions actually had 18 snaps in the red zone trying for a touchdown. And our defense, and I'm going to say ours, I know Joe doesn't like it when I say that, but I want to take ownership of our Steeler defense. They stopped them on all tries. They held them to either a field goal or the 2 fourth down. They didn't get any points. So, even though, yes, we gave up almost 500 yards in the air, which that has to, that passing yardage has to stop, or otherwise, once we get to New England, we're going to have a problem, or once they come to us this year. But it's really going to be interesting to see how that adjustment's made, because, to give up almost 500 yards on offense, but not a single touchdown, that in itself is impressive. But from the Lions standpoint, to take 18 snaps, and, Matthew Stafford is the highest paid quarterback in the league right now. So he's no slouch, and he's also the king of fourth quarter comebacks. they've had 8 of them. So when I saw that stat, I was like, wow, WTF, that is a crazy stat. But, it was definitely something that, it was such a game to watch. You just couldn't get your head away from it. You couldn't take your eyes off the screen. It was such a great win for us, which brings us to what was probably the play of the game. And, I know that there was a lot of stops, a lot of different plays, a lot of things that happened, but you can't discount what Juju Smith does. Juju Smith-Schuster is just this 20-year-old kid out there, and every time he does something, you just have to say, what the F did he just do? And we were on 3rd and long, and it was on one of the fourth down stops that we had. And so now we're back in our own, end zone trying to get out of it. And we're trying to run out. Then we had a miss. Then we had a missed pass or a drop pass, and or I should say incomplete pass. And then all of a sudden, Ben just fires, and you see Juju running down the middle, and he's in between 2 defenders, and he just grabs the ball. It was a great pass from Ben, and he's going, and you're like, oh my gosh, and we're standing, we're up, and we're jumping, and WTF, go. And I didn't think he was that fast. And even on TV, it did not look that fast. But he's weaving and bobbing. He kept looking back, and I'll tell you why in a minute. We didn't know why. I'm just like, just go fast. And he outran his, defensive back. So that was just crazy. It was great coverage, but it was a better pass from Ben, better play from Juju, and it was a 97-yard for a touchdown. Took it all the way in. It was fantastic. And so he made some history. He was the first player under 20 with that long of a touchdown in the NFL, and also the first player under 20 to record 4 touchdowns before his 21st birthday. So, this kid is making history as he's helping us win. And I truly believe, and I'm going to bring it back to Martavis Bryant and what he's probably thinking as far as a WTF moment. You want the win, you want to be supportive, but I think his mind space right now is just about, what he wants to do for himself and make himself valuable. And unless you're a team guy, this is going to be a tough place to work. But he's got to be thinking, I'm now number 3. After that performance by Juju yesterday, I truly believe we're going to either see shared time there, or we're going to see Martavis now the number 3 target. And, you have to consider target versus involved. And I know I mentioned this last week, but, the one thing that Martavis has that Juju doesn't. Now, Juju has some wheels. He definitely, got it going. And he said the reason he kept looking back because Madden had him as the Madden video game had him at 82 or 83, and he thought they were going to catch him. I swear, he is such a little kid. So he just didn't realize that he was going to be able to beat him, which I thought was funny. But Martavis is fast. I mean, that guy, you see the ball and then he just goes. I mean, it's just like somebody pushed a button to, go. So, and, I was looking back at a couple of the games he's had this year, and, he was clearly number 2 before his little temper tantrum and brattiness on playtime and snaps and everything like that and targets. But he was number 2. He was, you can't say you're just under AB because AB is targeted, 60 to 70% of the time, and then it drops off from there. And then you've got your other 2 guys, one in the slot, one on the side. But it's just, I think he now clearly probably sees that he's going to be there. But one WTF moment was in the presser after, and, I like to consider myself somebody in the sports media, obviously not as high profile as, ESPN, NFL Network, even though, obviously that's all what we strive to be on. But what's interesting is I hear some of the media's questions, and I think, WTF, why are you asking that question? Because, inquiring minds want to know, but you just know certain coaches that they just don't want to talk about it. Just leave it alone today. Talk about the win right now. And, for those of us that are in the industry, in the media, and trying to really put out some, good information, good product, things that people want to read and listen to, and then you hear that, and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, are you trying to get the coach? Okay, thanks a lot, bye. But then they said, do you think, they wanted to revisit the whole benching of Martavis? And Mike Tomlin's like, I already talked to you about it on Tuesday. And he was getting pretty hot about it. And then one of the media guys said after that, he said, so are you confident that Martavis will be able to help you in the future? And he said, no, I'm not, but we'll see. And I was like, oh boy, what did you just say? So that was definitely a WTF moment. I think that, he's going to get asked about it at his Tuesday presser, and he created that himself, so he has nobody to blame for that but himself. But that's definitely going to be probably the first question he says is, what's going to happen. And as we head to a bye week, I think that is going to be interesting to see what actually happens and all that. So we are 6-2. We're top of the AFC North. We're heading into a bye week. And it's just very exciting football right now to be a Steeler fan, to, be part of Steel City Underground and all the exciting things that we're writing about. And we love doing the WTF. We love doing all the different segments that we have. So we appreciate your business and listening in and really supporting, our efforts and all this. So be good, be safe, have a great week off of the Steeler football. Hopefully you're still, out there watching the other teams, but you're getting your own week off to, spend time with family and friends as we get into the holiday season. And, happy Halloween, everybody. So we'll talk to you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.